Did you know that 15% of tax returns prepared by tax preparers contain errors, sometimes to the tune of thousands of dollars? Welcome to the Lawyer Millionaire Podcast, helping law firm owners go from grind to greatness. I'm your host, Darren Wartz. Today we're talking with Tyler Dahl about taxes, estate, and succession planning, and what it takes to start and grow a law firm successfully. Tyler Dahl is the founder of Dahl Law Group, a Sacramento-based firm specializing in estate planning, tax strategy, and business law. All right, Tyler, it's great to be here with you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here with you.
Yeah, so I've got some great questions for you. We're going to start with the tough one. You ready for it?
Yes.
So, it's 2025, and the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 is supposedly set to sunset this year, barring any acts from Congress. And at the same time, we have a national debt that is ballooning past 34 trillion. So, as a tax attorney, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Where do you think tax policy is going in the future?
That is a tough question, and you definitely led with the tough one. I think obviously tax policy is going to go with the administration, right? Not to kind of draw party lines or anything, but usually Democrats are wanting tax cuts for business owners. Not necessarily Democrats don't want it, but you're going to see more drastic cuts with a Republican-led Congress and presidency, right? So, I think a lot of this is going to, politics aside, even though we're legitimately talking, or literally rather talking about politics, but I think a lot of it's going to be driven by the success with the tariffs, right? I think the policy, the administration, their view is, more tariffs can raise revenue for, the federal government, and sort of the consequence from that would be potentially an income tax reduction. There's been so many things that have been floated by Congress in terms of the tax changes that it's difficult, it's dizzying to even keep track of. But I would imagine some extension of the estate tax exemption, that high threshold, and probably some of that initial 2017 legislation being extended at the very least.
Yeah. That estate tax exemption is a big one. Are you having conversations with people about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a difficult one, right? Because it's going to sunset in next year, right? In January. Yeah. But I mean, if you plan right now, the exemption's basically $14 million per person, the estate tax exemption, right? And so that'll almost get chopped in half if no legislation is implemented. So it's difficult to plan when there's so much uncertainty. We're definitely having the conversations. It's just not many people are kind of pulling the trigger and moving forward right now just due to so much uncertainty. But some that are over the 14 million, or you're a married couple, you're at 25, probably dipping into the 20 million taxable estate, you got to start doing something anyways. So those people certainly they're moving forward.
It's hard to plan when that's kind of a moving target.
Yeah, it is. I think, like I said, I think generally that the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, there's going to be some of those, there's going to be some things they're going to be extended, right?
Yeah. I mean, if that sunsets, there are some major changes. Most people's tax bills would probably go up pretty significantly, especially business owners. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. And I always tell people there's stuff that you can do. You just have to do it early, right? Like if you're over the exemption amount right now, you can still do things, but it's better to get, in several million below the exemption when you can see the problem on the horizon rather than you've already passed it, right?
Yeah, definitely. Now, Tyler, you work with a lot of business owners and many law firm owners as well. What are some of the biggest tax mistakes that you often see? I'm curious from your perspective.
Yeah, I would say the biggest one would have to be staying in the sole proprietorship structure, right? Mm-hmm. I think a lot of attorneys are really busy. They're working their cases. They're not really thinking about their business structure. The money's coming in and they're just staying a sole proprietor, right? A lot of people think about setting up entities to protect from liability in the context of attorneys. You have personal liability for all of your, legal work that you're doing. Mm-hmm. So when we set up entities for our lawyer clients, it's not necessary. I mean, there's some liability protection with employment law liability, for example. but not personally liability for the legal work the client's doing. But if they're a sole proprietor, they're making around probably, net 100 to 120K, and they're still a sole proprietor. Boy, they're starting to leave a lot of money on the table.
Yeah.
So that would probably be the biggest tax mistake I see. Other than that, it's just, not leveraging the tax code
Right.
to work for them. Right.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that a lot. It's when I first discovered that many years ago, that was kind of mind blowing that you could use the S corp structure and shelter a lot of your income from those self employment taxes.
Yep.
A lot of times the biggest thing I see, apart from just not leveraging the tax code, is just having your finances just be a jumble. Personal finances on the business side and business finances on the personal side. Do you see that a lot as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's crazy because, here locally at least there was, and I don't even know the name, but like, the old sort of saying goes with estate planning attorneys specifically is like they'll do everybody else's estate plan and knock it out of the park and do a great job, but like when they pass away, do they even have an estate plan, right? So it's like most often it's our personal affairs that are sort of left in the dust and left behind, and we're prioritizing our clients over our own personal affairs, and I see that a lot as well. And
Yep.
it's
I
tough.
think I'm guilty of that myself. I need to have a meeting with myself as my financial planner.
Right. I mean, I kid you not, Darren. I kid you not. I was working on my personal estate plan this morning, doing
Nice.
some tune-ups and some guardian shifts for, I've got 2 young kids, and like, yeah, kid you not, just this morning. So
Good for you. Yeah, that's
yeah.
awesome. Well, why should we care so much about taxes, Tyler? I have conversations with people about taxes, but it seems like it's hard for people to really grasp it. And I'm like, I don't know how to get that across. Like reducing your tax bill, it's like dollar for dollar, it's immediate ROI, it's like less taxes is more money in your pocket. How do you explain that to folks?
Yeah, I mean, the simple explanation is, well, first of all, I think people, they sort of kind of, it's difficult to understand what is a CPA's role and what is like an attorney's role, right? Because there's sort of like what we reference as like a peaceful coexistence between us, right? I mean, many CPAs will kind of do some tax strategy things, but they're not lawyers, so they can't sit down and look at a case and analyze the case law and what that really means with the overall, strategy of their client, right? CPA's role is really for compliance, making sure that those estimated tax payments are being paid on time and in the proper amounts. The tax attorney's job is really, again, making sure that the client within the parameters of the tax law is, the client is saving money within the parameters of the tax law. And when you do tax strategy, which is really us proactively reducing the client's tax bill, it's the implementation is really where the attorney comes in, because you have to implement these things according to what the case law and the regulations say is legitimate or not, right? I think that I think people lose sight of it because it's just sort of like been this thing that, oh, well, it's just, I have to live with it, right? I got to pay my taxes and there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the big things. It's just sort of,
Yeah.
sitting in with the status quo, and then also thinking that it's complicated, or it's only for really rich people, right? No,
Yeah.
I mean, my argument is the less money you make, the more important it is, because every dollar for you making less money means more, right?
Oh yeah.
And I think those two things add to just the lack of attention that's given to it.
And actually, you have more that's available to you at those lower income tiers.
Yeah, it's kind of more bang for your buck. I mean, our
Yeah.
foundational strategies that we implement, I mean, we're looking at anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 per year of savings, and that's across the board. Like, it really doesn't matter how much money you're making. Again, if you're up towards that 100 to 120, 150 threshold, depending on your geographic area, like that savings is going to be pretty much across the board for the most
Yeah.
part. No guarantees, but so if you're making $500,000 a year, that maybe might be a drop in the bucket. But if you're making a couple $100,000 a year, that's going to start to add up. And we're talking year over year as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
On the subject of succession planning, many law firm owners don't have a succession plan. Why is it so critical to have a succession plan from the estate and tax perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, from a tax perspective, if you do have a taxable estate, there's going to be ways for you to minimize your taxes, by setting up different types of irrevocable trusts and doing, using different business entities, doing gifting and things like that. Um, from from a business law, like from a lawyer who's a business owner perspective, it's really, really important because, I mean, if you're a lawyer and you own your own law firm, I mean, I'm a lawyer, I own my own law firm. You put your heart and soul into this thing. It's like your baby, right? And to have that all go to waste if you were to pass away or become incapacitated, I mean, that would be a real shame, right? I mean, I know we talked a little bit, and I think even if you don't think that your law firm is valuable, every law firm has a value to it and a positive value, right?
Yeah.
If anything, you want to have a succession plan in place to be able to service any debt that you've got, right?
Hmm.
A lot of idle loans out right now, standing still, and you don't want to, strap your family with that if something were to happen to you. Other than that, and I know we've talked about this too, is the ethical implications, right? I mean, just here in California, the state bar has released some formal opinions, and basically what they say is that, you are probably committing an ethical violation if you do not have a succession plan.
Hmm.
And if you kind of think about, lawyers, you'll say a family law lawyer, right? You've got court hearings and this and that. You get in a car accident, you can't go to that court hearing. Your client loses. What does that look like? I mean, you're violating many, many ethical rules. So,
Yeah, and just taking care of your family. I mean, if you pass away and your spouse is not an attorney, they're not going to be able to come in and run your law firm, right?
right, right,
Yeah.
that too. I mean, here in California too, like they have to be a lawyer. There's a little bit of a grace period the state bar will give you, um, but yeah, I think you do the estate planning for it's a very selfless act, right? You're not doing
Yeah.
it for yourself necessarily. You're doing it for others and your clients if you're a lawyer. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
100%. Well, Tyler, take us back to the beginning for you. What, got you into this whole practice area? What made you start your own firm? Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. Man, I feel like I could write a book about this, but yeah, so my history goes back. My undergrad was international business and management technology. Wanted to do international law. Actually, a lot of my law school career I was in Guatemala, Uruguay, and Spain. Coincidentally, not coincidentally, but I'm fluent in Spanish, so I don't look the part. But
Yeah.
so I did a lot of work in the business law area. Started with a law firm where they did trust and estates. I kind of gravitated toward that, and I've always stuck with the business law and trust and estates. And very, very early on in my career, I mean, I'm talking like year 1, 2, started realizing that tax law has a huge, huge impact on the decisions that our clients make. And so from there, just sort of dedicated myself to the tax code, which sounds boring and it sounds very boring and depressing, but I love it. So,
Yeah, no, that's
yeah.
great. When exactly did you start your practice?
In 2014, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
So we've been
Were
here
you at
about,
a bigger firm before, or how
yeah,
did it go about? Yeah.
yeah. I was with a smaller firm than a bigger firm, and just kind of, just didn't work out culture wise. My family comes from, I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and I think that had a lot to do with it as well. Just sort of kind of going out on my own and, making it
Okay.
work.
So your
Yeah.
parents are entrepreneurs?
So my grandmother, grandfather, I spent many, many days on a floral garden when I was a kid. They owned a floral garden in central Wisconsin,
Oh,
Dahl's
okay.
Floral Garden. My mother was a real estate agent, and they owned rentals, and so did my grandmother too. And so I've kind of always been in that space, like re-roofing the apartment building, going and working on the greenhouse,
Hmm.
kind of sticking your heels in and getting your hands dirty. So yeah,
Yeah,
literally.
that's a lot of business ownership, getting your hands dirty for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
So what was that
Yeah.
like for you, launching out and starting your own practice? Was that everything you expected it to be, or were there some surprises?
Yeah, it was pretty much everything I expected it to be, but very difficult. I was here I'm originally from Wisconsin. I moved to Sacramento where I am now and didn't really have a whole lot of resources here and sort of did everything on my own. And that kind of plays into like what we want to be for our clients, right? Like you're not alone on this island by yourself trying to figure out the tax code or the succession planning or the estate planning or just general like business compliance, right? I mean, you have somebody here that can help you and guide you. I don't want people to go through what I went through, which was it was very difficult. But that was what was expected, right? I mean, again, from my family and life experiences, I knew business ownership was a difficult road and one that you can't, and a road that you need to have thick skin on.
Yeah.
So
How did
yeah.
you go about like getting your name out there? What worked for you initially?
Yeah, I just did a whole lot of old school, and I mean, I had nothing, Darren, like nothing, right? And so I just kind of went out there, did a lot of networking,
Yeah.
just you know, when I started, I think now there's a little bit more like people run their law firms like businesses now, but back when I started, and I said like
Mhm.
way back when, like I'm an old man, right? But
Right, right.
still it was like customer service wasn't like a top priority of like some of the law firms, and so I made that a point and just sort of you start getting more referrals from your current clients,
Mhm.
and you just do good work, right? Like if you do
Yeah.
good work, the community will notice, people will notice, and that's really it. You just kind of you know stick with
Yeah.
it, and yeah.
That's so funny because it's very similar to my journey. I was a teacher for 5 years and then launched my own business. Didn't know a thing about business or
Right.
what it took to start a business, run a business, or anything like that. And then I discovered networking, and that's really all I did. I was at everything, every chamber event, every networking mixer I could find. And people would tell me, they're like, "I see you everywhere."
Yeah.
But it works. It worked for a long time, and it can be
Yep.
a very successful way to kind of get things running.
It does. Yeah. And,
Yeah,
and and the referrals you get from that networking, those relationships you create, I mean, the conversion rate on
yeah,
those is, astronomical, right? Because you've been referred by a trusted colleague or a current or past client who you did really good work for. And
yeah.
it's a much easier conversation than just a Google lead off the streets, right? Which, we do have some of those here and there still, but yeah.
And those relationships last so long. Like I
Yeah.
have clients still from way back when. I have connections from way back when. I had a guy reached out to me who I met in a networking group like 10 years ago, reached out to me, wanted to reconnect. I was like, that's so cool. You never know how those things are going to like spider web out for you and grow.
Yes. Yeah, I'm in a similar situation now where I started down a path exploring different ways to grow the firm, and yeah, right now it's weird how, life works itself out, and
Yeah.
yeah.
What's one thing you know now about running a law firm that you wish you had known when you first started?
Yeah, I honestly I think that I as a law firm owner, I mean, I'm very in tune with technology. We use Decision Vault, Gavel, Lawmatics, Practice Panther, you name it. I mean, we use a lot of
Yeah.
different technology. Preferably, I wouldn't have spent a ton of money on figuring out what works best for me,
Mm,
right? But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think back a lot, and the question I get, which I think is similar, would be like, if you could do it over again, Tyler, what would you do differently? And I think overwhelmingly the answer would be I would seek out more resources, right? I would seek out
Yeah.
more professionals like yourself. I would try to get into some, Facebook groups. Just try to like get connected with like-minded attorneys a little bit more. When I first started, I was very business orientated with the law firm, but I didn't know that like there was this ecosystem out there that
Yeah.
existed of law firm owners who just also happen to love business ownership.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, just the resources and leveraging those. Yeah.
Absolutely. I wish I had known about like business planning and what that looks like strategic business planning, the EOS framework. I don't know if you're familiar
Right.
with that.
Yeah.
Like I wish I had learned about that many years ago. That would have been so
Yeah.
helpful.
It would have, and even some of those are difficult to implement, like the E-Myth
Yeah.
book for attorneys. It's a great book, but it doesn't really give you the nitty-gritty on how to implement, and that's
Yeah,
the most
that one's
difficult part.
not super practical. Yeah.
No, it's not. Very, very frustrating, but
But a
it
good
does it
message.
a good message, and it gets you in the right mindset, right?
Yeah, certainly. Well, Tyler, what does the firm look like now, and where do you see it headed in the future?
Yeah, well, we have, we have myself, another attorney. We're kind of trying to onboard another attorney as we speak right now. We've got, a good solid team of about 7 or 8 people. And, we are not expanding outside of our practice. Like, we love what we do and we're
Yeah.
passionate about what we do. We don't do any litigation. It's all sort of relationship based, tax and business and estate planning. So, I think the idea is just kind of grow the firm in the space that we're in and not extend out other than, I do a lot of tax strategy work like we talked about initially in this show. And with that comes a lot of demand for tax preparation and filing. And so I anticipate we'll probably bring on, an accountant or some sort of a compliance person at some point to be able to help service those clients because the demand is just overwhelming.
Yeah.
And, it's nice to have, like, I just reviewed a tax return yesterday that was missing a few things. And it's like there's a 15% error rate doesn't matter how good you are, among all tax preparers, right? And so having an extra set of eyes on there from the attorney's perspective, I think helps a lot. So
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing that we do with our clients is review their tax
yep.
returns, and we find mistakes all the time, sometimes to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars.
Yep.
It's
I just
crazy.
I just found one yesterday and it was a small one, but it was about $8,000. But hey, 8,000 is
Yeah.
8,000 is 8,000, right? And
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. It's
So
such a great value add for the clients. Um, so Tyler, we have a book club, which you may know about, and right
yeah.
now we're reading Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, the creator of Nike. And I'm curious, a lot of law firm owners I know are big readers. Are there any books that you're like really excited about or reading right now?
I was earlier last year. I mean, my quick answer to that is not right now. I have a 7-month-old kid, and
Okay.
so my sleep has been a little sparse. Some of the books that I've kind of recently read, which I try to kind of to kind of break it up into different things, but like the Rockefeller Habits was a good one. I read the Sales Stampede one. Um, you know, there's the No BS Direct Marketing, like the No BS series
Hmm.
books. They can be a little crude and kind of maybe slightly outdated here and there, but pretty good marketing stuff. Crucial Conversations is another one that I really liked.
Okay.
I think
What's that one about?
yeah, so Crucial Conversations is just like how do you have a potentially like not heated, but how do you have a very serious conversation with somebody, but have it in
Mm,
a very productive way, right? And that could be with fellow employees or with your spouse even, right? Like how can you take the animosity out of that conversation, communicate better, and take a conversation that would be very difficult into a productive conversation, essentially.
oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to check that one
Um,
out for sure.
Yeah, and then I think, I mean, from a personal level, I've fluctuated in and out of mindfulness and meditation. And
Mm.
during COVID, I read the book. I actually listened to the ebook, um, "The Power of Now,"
Oh, okay.
and so I think, yeah, let me just check.
The Power of Now.
Let me see here. Yeah, "The Power of Now" is the name of the book. It's kind of, I think it's, I think it's one of those books that if you listen to you could either like it or you're going to be like this is some cheesy, like I can't, like this is too philosophical and cheesy and whatever, right? But when COVID happened, our law firm was like we almost had our best year ever, I think. And working from home, I had more time and I was meditating in a consistent basis. And when I listened to the ebook during my strong meditation period, like it was pretty powerful. Yeah. And I think us as attorneys, right, like especially me as a planning attorney, and I think any attorney, you're focused on all, like I say that I'm a pessimist by trade, right? Like my job is to worry, like literally,
Yeah.
right? And so I think in our personal lives we can sometimes not do a very good job at being
Mm.
present with our family, being present in whatever hobby you're interested in, whatever. I think overwhelmingly any attorney really needs to consistently work on that in order to improve their
Yeah.
personal lives.
So important. We're so distracted by so many things around us. That being present in the moment factor is rare
Yeah.
and valuable.
Yep.
Yeah.
And easier
Great.
said than done, right? I mean,
Yes. Well, thanks so much for
yeah.
that reminder, Tyler. It's been great having you on the show. Tell us, is there any last words of wisdom you want to leave for our audience? And then tell us where our audience can find you if they want to learn more about you.
Yeah, so any last words of wisdom would be just don't wait. Like I know this is a self-serving statement, but get your planning done, right? Prioritize it. Really, I think reaching out to an attorney to get it done and engaging with an attorney is the best way to do that. Again, I know that's a self-serving statement. I'm an attorney that does this type of stuff, but as soon as you pay a little bit of money and you get the ball rolling, our job is to keep that ball rolling and keep you
Yeah.
accountable and get that planning done. So that would be my last parting words. You can reach out to us by our URL is www.tqdlaw.com. Dahl Law Group is the name of the firm, and we're going through a domain transition there. So you can follow us on social media too at Dahl Law Group, and we've got a bunch of we send out a paper newsletter every month. If you want to get on that, reach out, and we do a weekly email as well. Tons of blog content on our website. I mean, tons, Darren. Like, you want to know about, like, I just recently issued a blog on how stake rewards for cryptocurrencies are taxed, right? I mean, tons of a wealth of information there. So check that out. And I think that would
Very
be it.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks, Tyler, so much for being on the show.
You're welcome. It was great chatting with you. Thanks for having me.
Big thanks to Tyler Dahl for sharing his insight on what lies ahead in the world of tax law and telling us about his journey in growing his practice. If you want to learn more about Tyler and the Dahl Law Group, check the show notes for all the links and resources mentioned today. You might not think that tax planning is such a big deal, but taxes are likely your biggest expense as a law firm owner. Taking a more proactive approach to tax planning can dramatically improve your profitability. This kind of strategic planning is exactly what sets the Lawyer Millionaire Founders Network apart. You're not just running a practice, you're building a valuable asset. And that means playing offense, not defense, when it comes to taxes, succession, and long-term wealth. Proactive tax planning is just one of the many benefits of being a member of the Lawyer Millionaire Founders Network. Want to learn more about becoming a member? Schedule a call with me using the link in the show notes. And if you're not a member of the book club yet, join. It's free. Our current book selection is Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. You won't want to miss out. It's a great way to connect with like-minded law firm owners in a fun and engaging way. Our next book club discussion is in June, so you have plenty of time. Check the link in the show notes to join. That's a wrap for this episode of the Lawyer Millionaire Podcast. Remember, your law firm should be an asset, not just a job. Take control, build wealth, and create the future you deserve. See you next time.